Vineet, I don't know if you imagined doing this, but for me it was news as I walked in. So we're just going to keep this impromptu and fun and try to involve the audience as much as possible. But I thought I'll do some kickoff questions and you can throw some back at me. We'll just make it a fun, interactive session. You know, when I started pitching for Blume, a lot of folks said, you know, I don't know whether the small fund size will work, and I don't know whether venture capital, micro VC will work. This is 2010-11. They said, आजकल का fashion थोड़ा impact है. So why don't you pitch this as a impact fund? A lot of people might give you money. And I'm thinking like, no, I'm not going to fake this. But then I'm sitting in front of a legend on that space who imagined the word, articulated it. What's your view if I tell you, you know, and my comeback used to be almost everything we're going to do is impact when it touches an Indian customer. What's your view on that? Like, do you feel after 25 years it's been now? Do you feel like almost everything that Indian venture capital has backed or supported, almost I said, I didn't say necessarily real money gaming or defense. Those are all debatable topics, but does everything feel like impact after 25 years?
So, first, I started in 2001, where when I used to tell people I'll give you money and I'll not expect return or interest, not return. People used to really run away because they used to think there is something ulterior behind giving money which is not taking any interest back. So from that perspective, the idea of impact started with the idea of taking or democratizing entrepreneurship in some sense. And venture capital probably was the most powerful tool to do that. And so I didn't go around thinking about impact investing as impact. I started by saying entrepreneurs can solve big problems. And those big problems are on the social domain. Why should only NGOs have all the fun? That was the whole idea why I started. Now, the way I actually see things evolve, or where we are today, impact investing is a sliver of the impact that we create. Because there is no investment in the world other than, as you rightly pointed out, everything creates impact. Impact investing just takes that impact a little further by saying that you are intentional. So when you are intentional about impact, you need to report and talk about it every year. We faced that conundrum 7-8 years back, actually when Karthik was the chairman of the IVCA, where the government started saying, why should so much money go into venture capital unless you are actually serving the interests of the government? And therefore, in that sense, venture capital industry has played a fairly significant role in taking entrepreneurship to different parts of India and solving problems. And I mean, we were talking about crystal gazing, the future of venture capital. I mean, one of the questions that I was asking, and I think, Karthik, I want you to come back on that as well. If we are in 2047, what is it that we would allow? Can India invest everything from its own pocket? Can we do away with dollar? Because really the most important thing is dollar depreciates 4%. So you're on a clock of minus 4% every year. And so you have to really outperform to deliver a dollar return. So can we just do it with rupee? And the question is, we import 85% of our oil needs. And unless we solve that, and only venture capital can do that, we will continue to struggle chasing dollars and a depreciating rupee. I mean, we can look at it, except for a brief period in 2008-9, when rupee strengthened, it has been only declining. So unless we figure out a way to do that. So the challenge back to you, whether impact is important or not, but for India to survive and India to become sustainable, we need to really find a solution to that 85% of our oil needs. And how do venture industry actually solve for that?
No, one of the things I've been complaining a lot on stages like this is I'm not able to understand why the government is not being more pushy on forcing commercial mobility in this country, for example, to electric only. It doesn't solve the problem. We're shifting the pollution to the hinterland. But it's a deliberate action, I think, that will trigger at least a more widespread thought process around energy independence.
I'll just push you a little bit on this, because just think about it. Let's assume for a minute government does it. But I think the innovation that is needed for this country to not import any oil, we just deal with our 15%. We need to actually be doing fairly large amount of investment for very long term. And we just heard the PFRDA chairman. We are a very young continent, very young subcontinent, let's put it, very young country. Why not we actually put in very large amounts of money behind R&D? $11 billion, great RDI fund that we have, but as I used to repeat, 2016, we set aside $1 billion to trigger the whole fund industry. But think about it, $1 billion is what you need to set up a cell manufacturing industry. So we are actually not taking into account the size and scale of this country and the requirements. And that's one of the challenges. I still believe we are underwhelming in every approach of ours. And that $1 billion has created a very large industry.
Yeah.
Why couldn't have we dreamed $100 billion?
No, I agree. And I think, like I said this once and the minister shut me down because he said you can't touch, what's up, 2% of profits called? CSR.
CSR.
So the ability to move some of, not maybe the CSR budget itself because they feel it will get abused, but for things like RDIF equivalent, if you want to create energy dependence, why don't you create some sort of corpus for that?
But Karthik, I'll tell you, government has no dearth of capital. We are giving away a huge amount of money to subsidies, which is actually being siphoned out because those companies are essentially taking that money out because you are effectively financing in the energy side.
The question, I think, for us, Vineet, is how do we get more Indian capital to participate in this independence that we want to create? And you and me know it's challenging to pull money out of Indian investors. I think what you're seeing in public markets and our ability to move to a dominant position over FPI for the first time has come because there's been 20, 30 years of compounding of returns, right? So people have gotten rich on it. They've not yet gotten rich on small private venture capital per se. So you have to create stimuli to accelerate that is all I was trying to say. And yes, left to the hands of the government, yes, this is a radical thought that you can throw 100,000 crores at the problem, but you and me know that the 100,000 crores has to be leveraged with another 100,000 crores. Now, to expect overseas entities to come and cough that capital up to benefit India's R&D or deep tech innovation ecosystem is non-trivial is all I was trying to say. So how do you spur both simultaneously is like what we are debating, I think, today.
I think the time probably to bring the audience because we were not here to bore you with our thought process. We were here to actually hear from you. Karthik was one of those guys who started in 2010, but was also the chair of this August gathering some time back. And he has done significant number of initiatives that has brought IBCA where it is today. If there are feedbacks, and I think probably you were one of those instrumental in pushing this conclave itself.
No, so two, I think anybody in the audience, so two fun things, right? So one, does anybody have questions for us on what type of, we were discussing what type of funds would we run if you had to reimagine building a fund house in 2026? And, what kind of sectors would the audience be interested in investing and hearing our views? So one funny thing I'll tell you about raising money from LPs, right? If I sat on the other side, I can critique or praise every GP any given day on any point. So, so you should ask us on any question that we should debate or critique each other on whether we're doing the right thing or not, whether that's a sectoral bet or what kind of fund we run or what kind of strategy we run. Any questions at all? Yeah, please.
And by the time the mic reaches you, if I apply for a job in Aavishkaar today, my resume would not even reach the interview desk also. So that's the problem with the structure of the institution.
I have an idea and then I want you to comment on it or debate on it, right? You were asking how you can accelerate this. I'm from a bank, both of you know this. So one way banking has given comfort to the depositors is by creating a liquidity fund. Why not, to attract more capital? Today one of the biggest points for LPs, pain points is the lack of liquidity for an LP. Once they invest, they are locked in for 10 years. If there is a small fund created as a liquidity reserve fund, giving exit to at least the select fund LPs. Will that spur growth and give more LPs confidence to come into private markets, or will it increase their wallet share for the private markets?
So the first time I got stared at by regulators was when, about 11, 12 years ago, in a SEBI conclave, I actually said we should list all the funds. Right? So basically the funds itself, after 3 or 4 years of existence, should actually be listed on a private exchange. So I think the biggest challenge is price discovery, and I don't think there is a liquidity pool that can easily afford to take that risk. That's my view. I don't know. Vineet's also been through this journey for longer than I have. The last point on that is the birth of secondary funds and the emergence of them at the scale at which they have in the last 3 years is a positive sign in that direction. However, it's not a clean market-making mechanism as yet. And that's what you need for that kind of liquidity to be available.
My point of view is that we were deliberate. I mean, government investing $1 billion was never thought about till 2016. Nobody ever thought it will happen. I genuinely believe, like we actually launched the fund of fund, we need to do something for secondaries or the liquidity fund that you are mentioning to create an avenue. Now, that may mean that if you're not good, you will still get liquidity, maybe at a very deep discount. But liquidity should be there, and I think that would probably take us a very long distance from where we are today. If you're not good, then you will have to, you liquidate yourself, but at a discount, that's fine. That money is stuck, and we have seen it in Africa also. I actually invest a lot in Africa, and I've seen the same challenge. Creating liquidity is must for this ecosystem to complete, and we are still partial in that.
And as SIDBI is thinking of more corpuses of money, one of them could be this idea itself. But it has to come from those kind of ideas, angles.
Correct. Maybe, the LP secondaries will be picking up, and then someone will form a fund like this.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? We are out of time. We had a very short window, but if you can keep your humor, then we'll continue. Any questions at all?
Comment is also welcome, not necessarily question.
Yeah, comments also welcome. Yeah, Manish, you had something to say? Vineet, if you had to see a digital public infrastructure equivalent on AI that then leads to more impact sectors, any ideas as we think today on what can be done?
So I run a foundation which operates in Eastern UP, and we run business plan competition with government schools in the villages, rural Eastern UP, back of the back that you can think of. Then suddenly we receive this is from 12th class kids, we received a real fantastic business plan. Absolutely broken business plan, and we received fantastic business plan. And it didn't take us much to figure out that they are using ChatGPT actually to produce this business plan. I think intelligence, the power of AI in terms of flattening the intelligence pyramid is both beautiful and scary. When I started off, there was a bottom of the pyramid. Then I, over time, discovered there is an aspiration pyramid. If you are really poor, you never aspire to be rich, which has changed because of the technology intervention. AI is flattening the intellectual capital pyramid, the intelligence pyramid. And to me, that really changes the equation. You being very smart does not necessarily, which is a God's gift in any case, does not necessarily create great value now going forward, because everybody can compete with you. And that, in my view, will flatten the pyramid. The resource pyramid still exists. That's the pyramid of money sitting here. You just heard from the CGM of SEBI that she finds it ironical that we talk about ESG here. Unfortunately, because we don't have better places to do this. But I think that's the only resource pyramid that is left to be solved for the world to be without hunger, without poverty, without inequity. So.
Well said, sir. Manish?
So, forced question, I'll admit that. But no, jokes aside, look, both of you, I was trying to find a common thread. You both have, against all odds, built, I think, institutions that are lasting and will last. At Aavishkaar, you were facing a very different kind of space, really a category creator. And Karthik, I know you don't like to talk about it, but you created the largest, most successful homegrown venture firm. If there was one thing that's kept you guys in the game, and your answer might be different, against all odds, what is that? And if I can also be honest, I'm not looking for passion and that kind of an answer. I think those are obvious things you must have had. But something we don't know, something we, really don't know that's under the hood. It's one thing that kept you in the game. If you don't mind sharing that. Rajat thinks it's your love for fancy or cars, he says, but I don't know, but honestly, what's your answer?
That probably is for me. So I think that's right. I like to drive. And to drive, you can't just drive in Bombay, as you know. So I drive from here to Banaras every month in 22 hours, or to Calcutta. So I've done all kinds of stupid things. I drive in Mongolia also. I went to Mongolia for 7-day driving. So I love to drive, and impact investing forces you to go to very far places. So that's one thing that's kept me going.
For me, I think it would be a certain type of honesty with all stakeholders. So I don't think it necessarily serves me well. I think people get spooked by it. But I think it allows for a very different type of conversation with people who actually believe in, right? So whether it's founders or whether it's LPs. And so that actually, I try to tell all the people who join Blume that communication is a superpower. And so in our business, which is all about people, fundamentally you need to know how to communicate, how often. Sometimes adding an emoji at the end of a message is a superpower. Leaving a one-time voice note is a superpower. So I think about it a lot. So every element of my communication is thought through. So I don't want to make mistakes that I can't take back when it comes. And it feels like in a 20-year journey, you can't make too many of those mistakes. And each journey seems that long. I will be talking to Manish for another 15 years. So people remember. And so that's what I think has kept us going so far. It's only been 15, a long way to go.
I'll just give you one example of honesty. So I was doing my final close, and one of the investment I made had a massive fraud. And this is the day we were signing, actually. And I knew the signing is on. It was a global signing, so it was on. So I called up each one of my LP and told them, hey guys, we have had a fraud. So everything that I have claimed to you is basically off the rock. And so I called six of them, or these are all institutions. And one of them said, "Arey yaar, you could have called 3 days later, signing to complete ho jata." And I knew this could mean that we won't have a close. And the fraud was significant. I mean, it was small, but still significant from a return perspective. It meant that our closing got delayed by 3 months because all those signatures were null and void. They had to go back to their ICs to it. But it really increased people's confidence in our ability that they will call if something goes wrong, come what may. So sometimes being honest works against you because you speak things that you shouldn't be. But if you are convinced about being honest, then it works for you very well. So it doesn't matter at what point of time it is. When you come to know, just pass it on. Credibility, my personal belief is 50% success comes from raising money because you have performed well, and 50% of the time you are successful because people believe in you. So credibility and returns have equal weightage in the venture industry because it's very long term. And I think we still have a long distance to go to understand the credibility part. I think in last 10 years we have understood the return part, but the next half of it is still a question mark in my view.
Any more questions? Otherwise we'll wrap and leave you to the bar. I guess the bar is open. Raja?
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Vineet.